Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Weekly for Saturday, October the 23rd, 2021. We've got an interesting news story I want to cover a little bit today. We'll continue our walk up the Las Vegas Strip as we explore Caesar's Palace. That should be interesting. And so that's coming up today on the show. We may have a little Vegas tip we'll throw in towards the end. You stay tuned. We have another a special guest appearance today, someone who decided to put together a little short clip, encouraging those of you who find the channel to make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for future broadcasts. Speaking of future broadcasts, we will not have a traditional Wednesday show this week. Again, that's 2 weeks in a row. I know you Wednesday show fans are going to be feeling a little disappointed, but there is going to be content this week, and we'll try to get something up on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. I'm going out of town, not to Las Vegas, but I thought I might sort of vlog my experience going out of town. I threatened to do this back in July, did not do it. I think we're going to do at least a little something on that on Monday and Tuesday, travel day, and then we'll show you around a little bit where I am. So that might be fun. I guess you call it a field trip. Speaking of a trip, we had a trip of sorts last Wednesday when we had our monthly live stream. Thanks to those of you who dropped in. It became quickly apparent that I really didn't have any material. I just wanted to go live and see what people were talking about in the chat. So definitely some interesting topics came up. So if you haven't checked it out, might be worth doing so. So anyway, but yeah. So the news story I wanted to talk about a little bit today is related to a project that's been going on already for the last, I don't know, couple of years, I imagine. Elon Musk, a character of some repute, ill or well, I don't know, but an interesting character in our modern world, associated with a number of very innovative businesses and projects, you might say. And one of those projects is by a subsidiary, a company of his called the Boring Company, which is interesting because the Boring Company so far has been building tunnels under the Las Vegas Strip. And originally, the idea behind this tunnel was that it would create an underground transportation system that would move people around the soon-to-be newly expanded convention center, which if anybody has ever attended a convention in Las Vegas at the convention center, it is a massive facility. And just getting around that facility and getting from that facility to parking areas, to transportation, to any sort of activity outside the convention center is a bit of a trick, you might say. And so the original notion here was that you would have underground transportation options for people around the convention center. Well, then an idea came up, and I believe Wynn was the first one to talk about this and said, well, if you're going to build a tunnel, why don't you build a little, road over to us? A little spur. That's what you'd call it if it was a railroad. A spur of line over to the Wynn. And that will give our guests an opportunity to easily make their way to the convention center and make it easy for people at the convention center to make their way back to the Wynn if they happen to be staying there, or if they want to gamble or go to a show or have a meal, whatever the case may be. So that is happening. In addition, later on, Resorts World kind of got in on the action. And Resorts World's actually even closer to the convention center. It's pretty much across the street. And so they are in the process of acquiring this spur. In fact, I know a friend of mine and a fellow vlogger, Mike Nebeker, had a a still shot from Resorts World that actually referenced had signage telling you how to get to that sort of underground tunnel system. So it's definitely going to happen. Most recently, there has been a proposal for a much larger transportation system connected to this boring company and connected to this sort of underground transportation system. And it's kind of taken off rather quickly. At least the idea has taken off rather quickly over the last few months. And a very ambitious sort of project has been outlined, and it has received some preliminary approvals as a potential new transportation system around the Strip. So let's take a look at that real quick. So you can see from the imagery here, talking about a pretty significant transportation system, 29 miles, 51 stations, 57,000 passengers per hour. That, I don't know, it seems pretty optimistic. And on the right, here, let's enlarge that section on the right. You can take a look at the diagram. And it's not just the Strip. It heads off to places like the Orleans and Gold Coast, Wild West. So definitely going to be interesting if they manage to pull this thing off. They've got preliminary approval, so keep our fingers crossed. Should be very interesting. So anyway, there you go. That's that. Like I said, that looks pretty interesting. What are your thoughts? Is this just another one of those pipe dreams that's never going to happen, or could we be within a few years on the verge of a transportation revolution on the Strip? Speaking of revolutions, we welcome a guest to the show today with, I guess, kind of there's a little bit of a Halloween theme to this particular spot. And we'll probably run it again next week as well. I want to thank our friend Cathy. Cathy has a YouTube channel as well called Reignite. And probably around the same time that you might be seeing this, she has just recently, will have just recently released a interview. And she does interviews with a number of musical performers, typically people that have been very popular in the UK, because that's where she's located. But this most recent interview is with Suzi Quattro, who some of us may remember as Leather Tuscadero on Happy Days. And she also had, I think, a couple of hits in the US. So I'll put a link to that interview below if you'd like to check it out. And here's Cathy with some important words for all of you viewers right now.
Greetings all, Kath Grant Spooky Peg here. It's that festive time of the year, and I'm calling upon you all to do the right thing. You need to like, comment and subscribe to Vegas Tips and Tricks. All that work John puts in every week, all for free, you lucky, lucky people. But just remember, at Christmas, there's a naughty list for Santa. And guess what? At Halloween, there's one for Satan, and I'm in charge. So, unless you want my little friend to come and visit you in the wee small hours, I suggest that you appreciate the hard work that goes into this program. You like, you comment, and you subscribe. Otherwise, you could be next. Happy Halloween, everyone. Keep it spooky.
Okay, well, if that hasn't convinced you to subscribe to the channel, I don't know what will. As you know, if you've been paying attention, or just not really paying attention, but watching the show every week, we've been doing a feature which I like to call a virtual strip walk. And last week we ended by taking a look at Cosmopolitan and Bellagio. And as we're continuing north, more or less north, on Las Vegas Boulevard and leaving Bellagio, our next stop is Caesar's Palace, which is amazing and amazing. It has got to be one of the most confusing properties to walk around. So we're going to try to give you a little bit of a guide to how to make your way through Caesar's Palace. Now, you could theoretically just make your way around Caesar's Palace, but this is one of the most iconic properties on the Strip, and you're going to want to check it out. So as you exit Bellagio, you'll be able to take one of those pedestrian overpasses, which normally takes you right to a property. You can kind of go right in the door, but nope, not at Caesar's Palace. You'll go down the escalator and you'll find yourself in kind of an open air plaza. There's a little place, kind of a little cafe, place you can get a drink, a beer. There's occasionally some activities on around there. You'll pass through that little plaza area. You'll see on your right, as you get closer to Caesar's Palace, Hell's Kitchen. And on your left, as you get ready to enter the property, you'll see the big tent for Absinthe, one of the show that's been playing there for many, many years. And then you'll make your way inside. And when you enter the door there, you'll be at near the registration area. And that's quite a maze. Like most properties anymore, you do have the option of checking in through the computer and not dealing with a person. Caesar's Palace may be one of those places where you want to deal with a person, though, because depending upon the room you've booked, that $20 trick that we sometimes talk about could be really handy to get an upgrade, and an upgrade that might be a really, really good upgrade. We'll come back to that in just a minute in our Vegas tip or trick. But from the registration area, there's also a cafe there, sort of the overpriced coffee shop sort of place, Cafe Americano. And you can also wind your way down a hallway that will take you to both the Augustus and the Octavius Towers, the two newest towers at Caesar's Palace. Otherwise, you'll sort of veer off into the casino and get lost. But you don't have to get lost. If you kind of stay to the right and continue along the pathway there, you'll eventually make your way to the Forum Shops. One of the most sort of epic malls you'll see anywhere. And it's kind of a cross between a regular mall where you might actually go shopping and a sort of really upscale mall like places like Crystals would be or something like that. So it's definitely one of the, at one time I think it had like the most sales per square foot of any shopping center in the US. I don't know if that's still true, but it is something to see. And if you just walk your way through the mall, and you might want to check a map somewhere along the way, eventually you can make your way out to the street, and from there you'll be right next to the Mirage. Now, as they say, it is very easy to get lost inside of Caesar's Palace. If you start wandering off into the casinos, you may go in circles for quite some time. As you head to the back of the property, that's where you'll find the convention center, the pool, wedding chapels, that sort of thing. It's also where the buffet is. You head back that way. Caesar's Palace has 6 hotel towers, and they've been created over the years. The original tower, which for many years was known as the Roman Tower, is now known as the Julius Tower. It has been fairly recently renovated, so the rooms do have a little bit of a modern touch, but they tend to be small and not the most well-appointed rooms anywhere. The second tower that was built took the name of the Centurion Tower. The Centurion Tower is now this hotel within a hotel called Nobu. You're not likely to get upgraded to Nobu. And again, the rooms are fairly small, but it definitely has an Asian theme. And for someone that's really into that, as well as the opportunity to order room service from Nobu, it's a pretty cool thing. To pay rack rate for Nobu, though, is pretty pricey. It tends, I think, mostly to go to people who are high rollers and who are really into that sort of scene. The third tower that was built is the Forum Tower, which, not surprisingly, is kind of close to where the Forum Casino that leads into the Forum Shops is located. Those rooms tend to be the easiest comps, and they also tend to be in the worst shape. So going back to the old $20 trick we talked about, if you booked yourself into a room at the Forum Tower, you might see if you can make your way into one of the 3 newer towers, which would be the Palace Tower, which was built towards the end of the 80s, early 90s, I believe, kind of early 90s actually, and it's just recently undergone a renovation. It is very convenient if you want to visit the pool. It's also pretty convenient to the convention center and the buffet, but it is a pretty good hike from anywhere in the casino or the registration area. That's one of the towers you might want to get upgraded to. The other 2 are the Augustus Tower and the Octavius Tower, which we previously mentioned. Those are the 2 towers you see as you drive by Caesar's Palace, heading to the west out to where the Palms, the Rio, the Gold Coast is located on Flamingo. Those are the 2 almost identical looking towers. And those are the 2 most recently built towers. The Augustus Tower, I think, has undergone a complete renovation as well. The Octavius Tower has not, to my knowledge. I stayed there a few years ago, though, and it was still in excellent shape. So, and those towers are liable to actually have some views, particularly the Augustus Tower has some views even of the Bellagio fountains. So, I guess the tip of the week going along with our walk is if you get yourself booked into the Forum Tower or the Julius Tower, see if you can't talk to an actual person at Caesar's Palace and maybe offer them a gratuity, or just be really friendly and hope that the place is not sold out, and see if you can't get upgraded to one of those other towers. But Caesar's is an amazing property. There's so many great restaurants. There's great shows, bars. I've never had any luck in the casino. Most people I don't think have. So the key there is, make sure that you're paying attention, knowing where you're going, or it's really easy to get lost. But once you make it through, you'll be right in front of the Mirage. And that's where we'll start next week's continuation of our strip walk. And this is where we're going to wrap up today's show. So I hope that some of the information we shared with you today is helpful. And as always, we will be back again with another episode of Vegas Weekly next Saturday. Until then, I hope that you all have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.